Hi, today I'm going to be showing you how to export models that you made on Onshape and import them into CURA, and how to use CURA so that you can print models that you made on Onshape and print them using a 3D printer. So first thing you want to do is go to Google or whatever search engine you use and search up CURA. The first thing that should pop up should be from ultimaker.com. Just click on that, called Ultimaker CURA, and what you want to do is just download for free. And once you're done with that, you want to run it, and it should look like this. It might look a little different because I'm running an older version. I'm running 4.4 and right now it's on 4.8, but it's the basics are the same. It's essentially the same, but it might just look a little different. So after you've done that, you want to go to the actual model that you want to export from Onshape. So you go to Onshape and you open up the file that you want to print. For example, here I'm going to print this dog bowl holder that I made for my dog. So what you want to do is you want to come down here to where it says Part Studio. You're going to right click, and here it's going to say Export. Click on Export, and now you'll be brought to this page. So just change it to whatever you want. I'm gonna just name it dog bowl holder, and you're gonna leave the format STL. Leave that. You're gonna want to set it to whatever the units, whatever you were using when you made the actual model. So if you're using centimeters when you're making the model, use centimeters. If you're using inches, use inches. I did it with centimeters to do that. Resolution, just leave it at fine. It'll come out looking nicer. And just hit OK. Give it a second and it should export. It's shown folder. Should be right here in your recent downloads. So you want to go to CURA. Bring that up. And then just put it in there, and as you can see, it looks really small. I did this on purpose because occasionally the file will mess up a little bit. The dimensions are still going to be correct, but they might not be the correct size. So it's to scale, but it's not the size that you made it as. For example, over here, this is 15 centimeters across, but over here it's 15 millimeters. So all we want to do is click on the actual model, then go down here to scale, and you just have to multiply it by 10. So just gonna add 0 to make that 1000. Hit enter, and it'll scale the model equally. And now you have your model, and you could print it like this, but you would be wasting a lot of filament, because let's say I slice this. Right, slicing is basically, it prepares it to be printed. It's kind of like writing the instructions for the 3D printer on how to print it. Okay, so once it's done slicing, you can see how much time it's going to take, how many grams of filament it's going to take, or if you want, you can see also how many meters of it. Now, 12 hours is a pretty long time. And the reason it's going to take so long is if we go over to preview, you're going to see how it's actually going to look when it prints. And you can see like all this extra bit here. And by the way I'm moving around is just with right click. And you can zoom in with scroll wheel. This huge chunk here, these are all supports in order to be able to print this top part. Now obviously we want to minimize that, because if not, we're going to be using way too much filament. And it's going to take way too long, which means more chances to mess up, because prints do occasionally mess up, just like any regular printer. And filament costs money, so you don't necessarily want to be wasting it. So we're going to go back to prepare, and what we're actually going to do in order to minimize the amount of filament used, the amount of supports created really, is just come over here, rotate, like face, flip it. Now that way it doesn't actually have to make any supports for all of this, for this part here. The only part it's going to make supports for is, since it is a dog bowl holder, there's like a little lip here. And that's what it would make supports for. Like, these are just basic applications that you can use for any 3D model. I just happen to be using this one as an example. Also, you see how it's grayed out, kind of, with stripes on it? That's because it's out of the build area of your printer, which is shown by this blue cube. And you choose your build plate and what printer you're using, and it'll probably already have in the system the dimensions for the build plate, but you just type it in here. For example, I use an Ender 3, so you just type in Creality Ender 3, and you add the printer, and it'll most likely already know the dimensions. So what we're gonna do, move this back to the middle. It's back to yellow because everything's inside the build area. And now, if we slice it, okay, now that it's done slicing, look at that, 7 hours instead of 12. We're gonna go to preview. Now look at where those supports are, just right here. So it's obviously a lot better than before because you're using a lot less grams of spool, almost half the amount of half the length that you were using before. Now there are some other ways that you can change this. So for example, this is, if we go over here, you can see print settings. So the quality is essentially how nice you want it to look. The lower the quality, the higher the number, which also means the less time. But if you want higher quality, you gotta lower the number, but it means more time. Right? So if you want super good quality, you know, lower it to the lowest possible, which is 0.12, but it's gonna probably take an extra 3 or 4 hours because it's going a lot slower to make sure everything looks nice. It's not using any more filament, but it's going slower. Then comes infill, which is how sturdy do you want it. So basically just how much it fills up the inside of part. 0 means it's just air in the middle. Now 100 means it's a solid cube, and it's actually represented by this little box here. So if you want, you can just look here. Nothing, some, there's a good bit, and then it's a block of wood. Supports, those are for when you have overhangs, or like before, when this was like this. Obviously it needs supports to be able to build this properly. Adhesion, essentially what it does is just it builds like a plate for it to build on. So in essence, it'll make like this giant just layer of filament, and then it'll start printing the print on top of that. I've only done it once, and I never did it again because it makes it harder to take the print off of the base because it's fused together. It's annoying. I wouldn't use it personally, but you can if you want. It also serves to flatten the area if your bed has any bumps on it. And with all that, you should be done. Basically, that's all you really need to know to get started printing. You can go to custom, mess around there if you want. It's not really recommended to go mess around there until you really know what you're doing. But you can in custom, you can edit the speed of the print. So maybe you want a high quality, but you want it to go a little faster. And yeah, those are really the basics. And once you're ready, I'm gonna leave it like this so that you can see how much longer. We're gonna leave it at the same amount of infill. I'm gonna do the same amount of infill, but at higher quality, just so you can see how much longer it's gonna take because it's a high quality. So give it a second. And now that it's done, look at how much longer it takes. 7 hours to 18 hours. You don't really want that unless you are making something that you really want to look nice. For example, let's say you're printing a figurine. You're probably gonna want super high quality because you want it to look nice. Once you have all your settings ready, your printer should have come with a small USB. I'm speaking Well, I don't know if it's different for other printers. It might be, it might not. Some printers have their own printing program. But this is just the one that I use. It should have come with a USB and an SD card. Maybe it didn't. Maybe, again, could be a different printer, but you plug in your USB and your SD card into your computer and give it a second, and it'll say save to removable drive. You'll hit save to removable drive. It'll save it to your SD card or your USB or whatever, and then you're gonna hit eject, and you can pull it out and take it to your printer and start printing. So good luck.